All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Highland Friendship Club program volunteer orientation. In today's orientation, we are going to go through a number of things. Many of you are already familiar with HFC, whether that is being on HFC's board, being a past volunteer, just being familiar with the structure of HFC, or you may have attended our volunteer recruitment event. And so we have kind of some introductory things, introduction to HFC, mission, history, structure that I will just go through briefly. What we'll really focus our time on here today will be these bullet points of program volunteer roles and duties, expectations, rhythms, and policies. And then we'll really dig into our people, our members, useful tips for working with our members, and then we'll chat about next steps from here. All right, so first things first, I'm Holly. I'm the program manager at HFC. I serve as the primary point of contact for all of our members, families, staff, volunteers. I create our program schedules, staff volunteer schedules, newsletters, weekly e-blasts, all of those kinds of communications. I train, recruit, equip all of our staff and volunteers so that we are able to provide quality programming for our members. I manage all aspects of programming. So whether that is, the earliest stages of planning, execution, evaluation, all of those kinds of things. I also work with our program committee and member advisory committee to obtain feedback on programs, get new program ideas, all of that great stuff. Mary is not here with us today, but Mary is our program coordinator. You will see her quite often in programs. She holds a regular presence there. She helps to train and equip staff and volunteers, again, so that we're able to provide quality programming. She also works very closely with me to help plan and execute programs, as well as creating and maintaining registrations within our registration system. Mary is a fantastic resource for you. So should you need anything during your time volunteering at HFC, please do not hesitate to reach out to me or me and Mary. Between the two of us, we get around to things pretty quickly. All right. So again, most of you are already familiar with HFC, but I will just read you the mission. So the mission of Highland Friendship Club is to serve individuals with disabilities from teens through adulthood by providing a range of opportunities to develop lifelong skills, friendships, and connections within their community. All right. So again, more information that many of you are already familiar with, just history and growth of HFC. We were founded by two moms in 2002. They both have sons that have developmental and intellectual disabilities. They noticed that there were some pretty major gaps in social opportunities that were starting for their sons, around that 13, 14 teenage years. And they knew that these gaps were only going to get larger as their sons got older. They also knew that they were not the only people who were struggling with this. And so they wanted to create an organization or a program that would fill these gaps. And that is how HFC was born. HFC has grown tremendously since 2002, and we have seen tremendous growth, especially since COVID, when we had a pivot to hybrid formats, meaning we have both online programs and in-person programs, so we've been able to reach a larger audience. Currently, we offer between 35 and 40 programs per week. We offer programs online at the HFC office and out in the community regularly. Fun fact, this is my sister. All right. Again, more information you all are probably familiar with already, but program offerings at HFC. So I always try to explain it as if we have three different kind of categories of programming. First category of programming are our fitness and wellness programs, really just aiming to get our members moving, learning about health, thinking about making decisions that will help them lead healthier lives. Some examples would be Fit with Friends and Get Fit Like Rocky with our incredible trainer, Nick Boyer, who you will hear everyone rant and rave about as you get started in HFC programs. As well as a number of other programs like Move and Groove with Tammy. We have Walking Club, Zumba with Tibby, Get Up, Get Healthy, all different kinds of programs that help our members get moving and doing some good for their bodies. Second category of programs would be our skill building programs. These programs really just allow our members to learn valuable skills that they could use outside of HFC. Good example of this is our market to table shopping and cooking program. So in shopping, our members head into a grocery store, learn how to navigate the grocery store, learn grocery store etiquette, how to, manage a very, simplified budget, learn about generic versus name brand products, all of that kind of fun stuff. They go and they shop for an ingredient list that they use a couple days later in the cooking class, where they actually get to learn the skills to make the food and then enjoy the meal together and clean up all together. We have a lot of other skill building programs too. A couple of good examples would be story building and book club, both programs where you get to practice your reading, writing skills. Yeah. And then finally, and probably most importantly, would be our social opportunities. So these programs take on a lot of different looks, and really all of our programs, including our fitness and skill building programs, fall into this category. But we have, pretty much everything under the sun. We've got bingo, arts and crafts, game hours, dance parties, Zumba, walking club, mindful movement, adventure days. I think this photo was taken at the Como Zoo. So we really have a lot of opportunities, just really with the goal of getting members together, getting them talking to each other, making connections, making friends, being out in the community. All right. And then finally with program offerings, length of time of programming. So our online programs are typically 1 hour in length. We have a couple of programs that are an hour and 15 minutes. And then our in-person programs span a little bit more, just depending on the activity. We do have some programs that are 1 hour all the way up to 3 hours. I'd say the average program is an hour or an hour and a half. Those 3-hour programs are more things like heading out to the theater. Yeah. All righty. All right, so the structure of HFC programs, and I've kind of referred to this a little bit already. We do have online and in-person programs. Right now, we have about half and half in-person and online programming. It really, when COVID came and we switched to all online programs, it really offered us a unique opportunity to reach more members, both in terms of members who live in the Twin Cities or live in St. Paul and Minneapolis and just don't have reliable transportation or don't have enough time in their day to be able to make the trip to an in-person program. They were able to attend online. But we were also able to reach people who just live further away from the Twin Cities. We have a member right now who lives down in Northfield, and he attends multiple programs per week. And otherwise, HFC wouldn't be a possibility for him. But of course, many of our members highly, highly, highly value our in-person programs. They get, a connection that is unique and unlike anything that you're able to form online. And so we have really been working to, have some really good consistency and some really good mixes between online and in-person programming. So consistency versus flexibility. All of our programs, or the majority of our programs, take place on some kind of a regular basis, whether this means that it is a weekly program like our book club, or if it is a bi-weekly program like our base camp. We head out to the base camp and do scouting and team building on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of the month. And then we have monthly programs. So once a month on a Friday evening, we have a dance party at the HFC office. Everyone comes, we got music playing, we've got some light snacks. People are playing games if they're not interested in dancing, and that's something that people really look forward to. And so that's kind of for the consistency. Flexibility wise, our members sign up for programs individually, which means that they can sign up for book club on one Tuesday of the semester and not sign up for any of the others, or they can sign up for every single Tuesday book club that there is. And so this really offers our members to make HFC as much of a constant in their life, because consistency is very important to a lot of our members. But a lot of our members also have extremely busy lives. They have a lot of stuff going on, and sometimes they're only able to pop in once in a while. And so we really value kind of holding the ability for our members to attend as consistently or as flexibly as they need. And then finally, just program facilitators. So there are kind of a few categories of people who facilitate our programs. The first would be contractors. Those are professionals who we bring in to teach their programs. So for example, our Zumba program is taught by a certified Zumba instructor. And the largest majority of our fitness programs are led by a certified personal trainer. Many of our programs are also facilitated by HFC staff members. So for example, our garden club right now is being facilitated by Mary, our program coordinator. Our game hours, our dance parties, our birthday bashes, all of those kinds of programs are facilitated by our HFC staff members. We do also have a couple of programs that are facilitated by volunteers. Best example of this would be our book club. We have a longtime volunteer named Sarah who has been leading our book club, and she is fantastic. All right. So here's just a little bit about the roles and duties of program volunteers. So really the main goal of having program volunteers is enhancing member experiences in programming. This really can be done, quite a few ways. The first way is just by making connections with members and caregivers. So volunteers just show up, they have conversations, they make friends. Another way that volunteers are really helpful is they can help facilitate connections between members. So, I mean, really, the goal of HFC programming is getting members together and forming connections between them. And so sometimes it's really useful to have volunteers kind of help bridge the gap between members. Perhaps one member isn't understanding what another member is asking them. And so a volunteer can be a bridge between that conversation to make sure that members are able to communicate with each other and ask each other questions and answer each other's questions. And then finally, really, program volunteers are super useful in assisting the program facilitators to ensure that programs run smoothly. So, a good example of this would be at our arts and crafts class. There's always a lot of stuff going on at arts and crafts. Sometimes it's a simpler craft and our volunteers are able to just kind of, sit back, hang out next to a member or two and help them out when they need it. Other times there will be a member at arts and crafts that really needs some one-on-one assistance. And so a volunteer might be, assigned to being the buddy of that member for the day. Or there might be a task that really needs to be done. Like perhaps we need to cut out 20 sheets of paper for whatever the craft is. The volunteer might get that role just to kind of do whatever needs to be done to keep the program running smoothly. So we do have some expectations of our volunteers. We call them the 3 C's. They are commitment, confidentiality, and conduct. And most of these things will be pretty obvious to you all. The first commitment, our members really count on our volunteers. And so we always expect that you arrive at your assignment on time and that you're ready to participate. We typically ask that our volunteers arrive at programs 15 minutes early. That just gives you enough time to check in with our staff members, check in with our contractors, make sure you know your role, do any setup if any setup is needed. And with this, really, I just want to highlight that communication is key. Of course, things are going to come up. You might not always be available. And we really just ask that you communicate with us as best as you're able to. All right, confidentiality. So we ask that our member information is kept confidential. So when you are, telling your friends and family about the great experiences you're having at HFC, you're more than welcome to do so, and please do. We really enjoy it when our volunteers, when our staff members, and when our members talk about programming outside of programming. Just make sure that you're being respectful. Use first names, don't use full names, maybe not any unique identifiers, that kind of stuff. We also ask that you don't post HFC related content to your social media platforms. Any images or videos that you take should be sent to HFC to be posted on our official accounts. And once things are posted on our accounts, you are more than welcome to like, share any of that content. We just like to be able to kind of mediate that just to make sure that, you know, any photos and videos are approved to go out by parents, caregivers, members, all of that kind of stuff. And then finally, and this one is obvious conduct, all of our members and our people. So that would, you know, include other volunteers, staff, contractors, members, family members, caregivers, as well as facilities. So the spaces that we use should be treated with dignity and respect. All right, so commitments. So our program volunteers commit to attending a program or multiple programs, depending what you are interested in, for the duration of a semester. So for example, summer 2024. And as I mentioned earlier, our programs do take place on a regular basis. So either monthly, bi-weekly, weekly. And we do have 35 to 40 programs per week. So there's really no shortage of options. If you haven't already seen our program catalog, you can find that either, you know, in the introduction emails that we've sent to you, or you can find it on our website if you don't already have access to it. That'll really just show you all of the programs that we have each week, and you can see what works in your schedule. Again, if you're only able to commit to something that's monthly, we have monthly programs that'll work for you. But if you're looking for kind of a bigger commitment, you could commit to a weekly program or even multiple weekly programs. And then I'll highlight that, you know, missing a program or two because you're out of town or on vacation or just unable to attend isn't a big deal. The reason why we ask for a commitment to attending for the duration of a semester is just because our members really value consistency. And I'll talk about this, you know, right here. But when you attend programs regularly, you really have an ability to build connections with members and become familiar with the flow of programs, which allows you to contribute your skills in a really valuable way. And our members really like getting to know our volunteers kind of over a longitudinal period of time. And so that's why we ask for that commitment. So again, if you're not able to attend one or two, that is totally fine. Just try to commit to programs that you believe you'll be able to attend for the majority of these sessions. And then, you know, I kind of covered this already, but volunteers choose to be part of a program that works in their schedule and is of interest to them. So when you're looking through our program catalog or when you're looking through our volunteer slot sign-ups, think about something that, you know, you're interested in. Of course, you're going to get more out of this experience if you choose a program that strikes your interest, and one that works in your schedule, right? We're not going to schedule you for a program that doesn't work for you. So we really want it to work to your advantage. All right. So we do have some prohibited actions from program volunteers. These are also prohibited actions from our staff members as well. And so volunteers and staff members do not engage in any of the following. So personal care of members, this would include like toileting, bathing, or administration of medications. Any members who need assistance with these tasks would need to bring a parent or caregiver to programming with them to assist them with these actions. These next couple are obvious. Please don't use tobacco products during programs. Don't use, possess, purchase, sale, or distribution of alcohol or illegal drugs at HFC or within 8 hours of a program. Please don't use obscene language, profanities, offensive behaviors. Again, these are all things that are pretty obvious. We don't expect to be issues. Many of our members are pretty sensitive to these kinds of things. So just always think appropriate language, appropriate actions. Private conversations with members is something that we added on here. This is kind of a challenging one because it's hard to avoid having a private conversation at all times, because sometimes you will be walking a member to the bathroom or walking a member to the water fountain. Really, we just ask that one-on-one time, like in an area where no one else can see you or no one else is there, is limited. So please walk someone to the water fountain. Please walk someone to the restroom, of course, if they need that. But just try to limit that time. If a member is having a difficult time in a program and they need to be kind of removed from the group, think about going to the opposite side of the room where you're still in sight versus completely leaving the room and going somewhere private. Let's see here. Another prohibited action would be destruction or failure to maintain program facilities. HFC really, really values our partnership with the different spaces we use, whether that's the HFC office, Hallie Q. Brown, libraries, any community sites. And we want them to want us to be there as much as we want to be there. And so in order to do that, we need to take care of the space, leave it as clean as when we came. So just be respectful of our facilities. And then finally, transportation of HFC members. HFC members need to have their own transportation, whether that is public transportation, ride shares, metro mobility, parents, caregivers giving them a ride. Our volunteers and staff cannot transport members. The only exception to this would be like if you were the sibling of an HFC member. So for example, I would drive my sister to HFC programs, but I would not drive another member to programs. All right. So here are some rhythms and policies for you all. So HFC staff and volunteer schedules. So this is something that you will receive access to once you have been assigned programs, or once you have signed up for your program or programs this semester. It's an Excel sheet that contains every single program, location, staff, volunteers, any details you need to know about that program. It also, so each tab at the bottom of that sheet is a different week that shows all of our programs. There are also tabs that show our staff and volunteer contacts in case you need to get a hold of someone to let them know that either you won't be able to make it or that you're trying to find the group. So you will have access to those once you have selected a program to be a part of. Daily emails. So for each program, we send out an email at 8 a.m. the morning of that program. That daily email contains really the same information that's in the staff and volunteer schedules. It contains, it says the staff member's name, it has the volunteer names, it has the contractor names. It contains information about the time of the program, location of the program, meeting spots. If you see anything in that email that's confusing or conflicting with what you thought was happening, just reply all to that email. By replying all, you'll ensure that you get a pretty quick response back so we can clear up any confusion, and that we're able to send out any edits if we happen to make a mistake. And then for absences, really, again, I will just highlight here, communication is key. Ideally, we would know 48 hours ahead of program if you are unable to make it. But of course, things come up and you sometimes find out in less than 48 hours before the program that you're not able to make it. If that happens, please just send a message to me, Mary, and any staff who are listed on your program as soon as you're able. Then we're just able to make backup plans. We're able to know if we need to find another staff member. All of that kind of stuff. So communication is key. All right, so some more rhythms and policies. I mentioned this earlier. Typically, we ask that our volunteers arrive 15 minutes before program start time. And again, you use this time to talk with other staff members or contractors to prepare for the program. There may be a couple of exceptions to this. One exception is cooking. If you sign up to be a part of market to table cooking, we typically need quite a bit of help with the setup. And so we sometimes ask that you arrive 30 minutes before the program time. But you'll be aware of this and it'll be listed in the staff and volunteer calendars if you're part of a program where we'd ask that you're there earlier than 15 minutes before. But 15 minutes is kind of that standard. Throughout programs, we really just want you to be actively participating and be engaged with our members. This means, making contact with each and every member. If you are sitting at a table and there are, 8 members total, just kind of make the rounds, stand up, make sure you connect with each member, say hello to each of them, ask everyone how their day is going, ask them a couple of more questions. The more members you connect with, the better. Another thing that can be really useful from volunteers is to keep an eye out for members who need extra support with the activities we're doing. So for example, if you're at arts and crafts and there's a member across the table who is clearly struggling with coloring in between the lines or cutting something out, feel free to go over there and offer your support. Also, once in a while, we have caregivers at programs who need a little bit of guidance, whether that is knowing how much or how little to support their members. So just keep an eye out for people who are needing extra support or guidance in the activities we're doing. If an emergency pulls staff away, just try to keep members focused on their activity, assure them that things are okay. We often have a lot of moving parts in our programs and things come up sometimes. And so that's why having volunteers at programs is super useful because they're just kind of able to, keep the program going as it has been going, so that our staff members are able to, take care of issues as they arise. Of course, helping the facilitator with anything they're needing to help the program run smoothly. So this could be anything from, oh my goodness, we forgot we need to cut out 20 pieces of paper. So could our volunteer please go run and help cut out those pieces of paper? Or it could be something as simple as being a one-on-one help for a member, or as simple as, just going from member to member and seeing if they need any assistance, anything like that. At the end of the program, a couple of things. It can be useful for volunteers to assist our staff with making sure members get picked up by the correct person who will be picking them up. And then, of course, cleaning up and just making sure the space is as clean as when you arrived. We typically have 2 to 3 staff at every program. And so if we have 2 to 3 staff and a volunteer at that program between, the 3, 4 of you, cleanup is pretty fast. So really just, make sure you leave the space as clean as when you arrived. Try to set the space back up like it was when you arrived. Like if you moved tables, just put those tables back where they came from. Again, just kind of respecting that space. And spending 5 minutes to clean up at the end of a program is a lot easier than having to clean up tons of stuff if we only clean up every couple of weeks. Alrighty. So here is some information about our members. So as we mentioned earlier, we do serve anyone who is aged 13 plus. We have members with all different kinds of disabilities. Some of the most common diagnoses that we see include cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and autism. And again, all of our members are very unique, but there are certainly some common traits and behaviors that our members exhibit. So some of these include motor function impairment, which could include, balance, like it may be difficult for them to walk on uneven surfaces, fine motor skills. So some of our members have a hard time with fine motor skills, whether that be, cutting out paper or chopping or shredding, writing, all of those kinds of things. And then just general mobility too. So, we have many members who are in wheelchairs, many members who use adaptive tools like sticks. Hannah uses sticks here to walk around. And so motor function impairments are something that you'll see pretty often at HFC. A few other things, repetitive speech or behaviors. Some of our members will repeat the same phrases over and over again or do the same behaviors over and over again. Short attention span, and this is kind of one of the reasons why we try to keep our programs between an hour and a half in length, because often when we go over that amount of time, we do lose the attention of our members. This is also a reason why having volunteers is super useful, because the more people we have to engage our members, the easier it's going to be to keep that program interactive and keep our members really focused on what we're doing. Heavy reliance on a consistent structure and schedule. A lot of our members really value HFC programs and they kind of build their lives around it. And so our members, for some of our members, it's really important that our programs are consistent and happen when they know they're going to happen. Let's see here. So slow processing, speech impediments. A lot of our members you have to be really patient with. So you may ask them a question, and a lot of our members, they just need, 10, 20 seconds to really take in what you said, think about how they'd like to respond, and try to respond. Some of our members, once they've thought of how they'd like to respond, they have no issue getting the words they'd like to say out, while other members have a lot more of a difficult time with this. Some tips and tricks for working with members who have speech impediments or have a difficult time communicating what they'd like to say would be simplifying your questions, right? So either giving them like a list of options to choose from, asking yes or no questions, breaking your question up into smaller pieces so that you don't have like a 3-part question in one. Maybe you ask each part of the question separately. Yeah. Difficult communicating emotions and desires is another trait that you may see from members. Again, this just kind of goes along with the patience, being patient, being empathetic towards members who are having a difficult time. Difficulty understanding social interactions is a really big one for our members. So this can be from anything. This can be anything from, not knowing when the appropriate time to speak is, right? So a facilitator may be giving instructions, and a member may not understand that that is a time to kind of remain more silent and save your questions for the end, not a time to be having conversations with others around them. And so our members often need reminders about what the proper way to speak or act in certain situations are. And then some of our members do have seizure disorders. I have asterisks here next to this one because for members who have seizures, we do ask that parents and caregivers stay with them. And so we hope, fingers crossed, that dealing with a seizure should never be the task of strictly a staff member or a volunteer. There should always be a parent or caregiver there to help out in the event that a member does have a seizure. All right. So here are some language and communication tips. At HFC, we really try to promote using person-first language, which emphasizes the person, not the disability. So the biggest example of this would be saying a person with a disability versus a disabled person. And of course, we always defer to how the member wants to be called, right? So if a member wants to be referred to in a specific way, then we honor that request. So if a member, just as if a member wanted to be called by a nickname, we'd call them by a nickname. If a member wasn't comfortable using person-first language to describe themselves, then we would describe them in whatever way that they ask. But generally, as a rule of thumb, we use person-first language when we're speaking about our members. So here's a tip about kind of helping a member. So a lot of our members need assistance in programs, but a lot of our members also need to be pushed towards independence as well. And so one really good rule of thumb is when you're helping a member or when you think a member might need help, wait until your help is accepted and then ask how you can best assist them. So I'll go back to that arts and crafts example. If you see a member who is struggling with a certain activity, ask them if they need assistance. Or if they'd like to keep trying on their own. And then if they say they need assistance, ask how you can best help them. When we're talking to members, we address them just as we would any other person. We don't alter our voice or speak in a childish, simplified manner. Our members, some of our members are teenagers, but many of our members are adults, and so we treat them like they're adults. The only examples of exceptions of this would be, right, like members who are hard of hearing and need you to speak louder in order to hear you, or members who have processing challenges and need you to speak a little bit slower so that they're able to understand what you're saying. Other than those kinds of exceptions, though, we generally suggest that people talk to members just like you would talk to any other person in your life. This last one, excuse me, is an important one. If a member has a caregiver or an interpreter with them, you want to speak directly to that member. So even if that member is nonverbal, they aren't the ones responding to your questions, you still want to look at them and be asking them the questions. Just as if you were talking to someone who spoke another language and had an interpreter with them, you're not having a conversation with that person's interpreter, right? You're having a conversation with that person. So look at that member, ask that member the questions, and then allow for either them to try to respond to you or for their caregiver to kind of be their voice. With that being said, of course, you are allowed to have conversations with caregivers. This is not at all to say do not speak to caregivers. This is really just to say that we want to be interacting with each member equally. And when you're interacting with a member who isn't able to communicate for themselves, or it's more difficult for them to communicate with themselves, you still want to be speaking directly to them. All right, wheelchair and limited mobility tips. So I was once told that a wheelchair is an extension of someone's body. And so just as you would never walk up to someone and push someone or start moving someone yourself, you would never walk up to someone in a wheelchair and start moving their chair without permission. So just always ask people if they need assistance before you start assisting them. We always like to be careful in crowded spaces. We allow extra time to transition. Our members are often a bit slower moving. They need a bit more transition time. So this is just something to be cognizant of, especially when you're out in the community. If you are speaking to someone who is, either sitting down or is in a wheelchair, if the conversation is going to last more than a minute or so, just sit down to share eye level with them. It's uncomfortable for a person who is sitting to be looking straight up for a long time. Sorry, I have the word time spelled wrong there. And it's just more appropriate in general. So think about getting down to the same level as the people who you're interacting with. All right. Well, that was kind of the end of the tips and tricks about our members. And so here are just kind of general next steps. You all should have access to our program catalog by now. So please feel free to check that out. Start thinking about the programs that you want to be a part of if you haven't already expressed interest in those programs. The next step from there, well, when you're finished with this, you'll actually want to notify me that you are finished so that we are able to initiate the background check. This background check will be sent in an email via a third party. So keep an eye on your spam mail. Emails often pin it as spam. It'll ask you for some pretty simple information, name, date of birth, address, perhaps, I'm not sure what else, maybe social security number, just so that we're able to run a background check. Of course, many of our members are vulnerable adults. And so this is something that we have to do for all of our volunteers and staff just to make sure that they are safe and supposed to be around our members. From there, we have a volunteer agreement and an HSC release of liability that we have our volunteer staff all fill out. So we will send those to you. Those are just electronic. You'll fill out a form, press submit. That'll be all finished. And then from there, we'll get you solidified in your programs. And so you'll be able to select those programs. Once you are selected and added into those programs, you will get access to our staff and volunteer calendars. And then, of course, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Again, my email is holly@highlandfriendshipclub.org. We are probably already in contact. And so please let me know if you have any questions. But thank you all for joining our volunteer orientation today. We will be in contact with you soon.